Good afternoon and welcome to the Council Committee of the Whole for March 27th. I'm happy that you could join us here today. I'm going to call this meeting to order and go directly into item number 2.1, Police Commission Decision Points. I will turn this over to Deputy CAO Arlen Miller for introductions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Clayton. And so I'll just give a brief introduction to the topic this morning. So today's meeting is it's a follow-up to the recent meetings that we've had with Council on the creation of the police service for the City of Grande Prairie. As you are aware, on March 7th, there was a motion that was passed by Council directing the City Administration to take all steps necessary to establish a municipal police service. And then subsequent to that, on March 20th, there was a motion passed, or the bylaw was passed, to establish the Police Commission. So today what we wanted to do was walk through the steps for the establishment of the Police Commission. If you had a chance to read the report, there was 4 different recommendations that we'd like to discuss in further detail today. So I'll just walk you through those. And then between Mr. Nicolay and myself and Mr. Manuel and Mr. Lemieux and the rest of the team will be available for questions as well. So the first recommendation that we have that we'd like to speak about is how many commissioners should be appointed to the Police Commission. And when you look at the details in the report, we gave you some details about how many have been appointed in other locations throughout the province. We also, in the bylaw, just to remind you about that, we did speak to 5 to 12 is what is permissible under the Police Act. And then our recommendation, after considering all the data, is to start the commission with 7 commissioners. The second recommendation we'd like to talk to you today about is our commissioners required to be city residents. If you look at the details that we provided once again, with the exception of Edmonton, the City of Edmonton, all the other police commissions do require the residents, or the commission members to be residents within the municipality. So our recommendation there is that the city residency be a consideration, but not an absolute requirement. The third recommendation is should compensation be provided to the commissioners on the Police Commission Board? And again, we provided data. And if you had a chance to look through it, and then our recommendation there is that commissioners should receive compensation in accordance with the draft Grande Prairie Police Commission honorary policy. And that's just a recommendation. Of course, Council can decide whatever they decide to do with that. And then the fourth recommendation to talk about today is what is the recruitment and selection process for the commissioners? We provided comparison data from 7 different municipalities within the province. And our recommendation there is that we also provided 2 different attachments for Council to consider and work through. So the recommendation is recruitment should be conducted in accordance with the draft Grande Prairie Police Commission recruitment and selection policy, which is attachment number 2 in the package. And then also considering the draft Grande Prairie Police Commission competency framework policy, which is attachment number 3. We feel that these are both thorough guides that would help Council decide the process to utilize. And just a couple highlights here as well. There has been some discussion about should an external recruitment firm be involved. So we did do a little bit of research there, and the cost range to involve that process is probably $30,000 to $50,000. And probably a time frame of 8 to 12 weeks and to complete that process. So it would, that doesn't line up 100% with the timeline that we were hoping for, thinking back to the police transition document that was put together by Myers-Norris, or MNP. But certainly something that we could talk about further today. There could be an alternative to that as well, a modified process. It could be following the city established processes for boards and commissions, and then perhaps rather than use an external company to assist us, we could, if Council so decided, put together a panel of local expertise or expertise that Council would be comfortable with. So we could use the legislative, or the practice that Legislative Services typically uses, and then have the candidates, the applicants, referred to a panel of folks that Council would be pleased to have review, and then recommendations made from that panel to council to make the final selections. So there's different variations that could be utilized, but I think that's all I wanted to speak to right at this time. And then just open it up for questions from council, or and also listen to the discussion and chime in as we feel necessary.
Perfect. So thank you for that introduction. I see the queue filling up. I will suggest that we'll go through the questions as identified rather than back and forth. So we'll go through the 4 topics as identified in the package in that order. If we at the end have questions that come to you after, fine, but let's try to keep them on the topics, and we'll go through the group and then come back around. First one, so comments or questions on how many commissioners will be appointed to the Police Commission. First, and if your question isn't on that, just stay in the queue and I'll go to the next person. Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. My concern after reading through the documentation for the number of commissioners and the number of subcommittees and the number of subcommittee names, I'm concerned that 7 is not enough. If it's okay to pick 7 for right now, I'm okay with that, but I think it's going to not serve well for someone who's either a lawyer or whatever. It's going to be a full-time job in that first little while. I'm just concerned, is that enough commissioners to be able to, and you look at all the different committees there said that they have to go to. There are 4 different national committees they have to go to, and they're taking a lot of time. I think that first little bit is going to be a little heavy, and you can reduce down. But I think those committees, I'm not sure which way to go. So how do you recommend seeing or think of how this is going to go?
Mr. Miller?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Our recommendation is to start with 7, but it could certainly ramp up if the workload is too much, or if council or the commission member, I guess maybe the chair of the commission, comes back and says we do need more support from council for additional appointees, so it could be changed. It could go up to a total of 12.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, I'm thinking very similar to Councillor O'Connor here. I had it highlighted on my package. Preference to start with 9. The reason being is also around the subcommittees, we're talking about human resources, governance, finance and audit, professional standards, and a potential equity, inclusion, and diversity subcommittee. Unless these people are going to populate every committee. I know most subcommittees that I sit on have 3 to 4 people, including administrative support. So I think 9 is probably, especially at the startup date, and I get it. Medicine Hat has a few, but we're starting this rather than just rolling with the commission that's already established. So I would prefer a higher number myself too.
Councillor Blackmore.
I'm okay with 7. I think that when you have a group that needs to put in a lot of work and come to consensus, 7 is a good number. I'm curious about, there's no mention that I noticed anyway about whether or not that would include members of council.
So yeah, at this point, it's 2 appointed by the minister, 2 members of council, which could be an employee and or members of council. And then based on 7 would be 3 public community members.
And then we would still be offering a secondment for an executive assistant.
Mr. Miller?
Yes, that's correct. There would be an executive director as well, seconded from the city to the commission.
Yeah, I'm okay with 7.
And just to clarify, it also indicated that the remuneration wouldn't be for council members or employees that were appointed to the commission. Councillor Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Just kind of building on this, I'm just curious if admins had a chance. I tried to kind of do a quick mock on my own, but what would we think with 7 commissioners and subcommittees that it would, how much time do we anticipate this being for a board member or commission member?
So a couple things before I turn it over to Mr. Miller. The committees are potential committees, and not every commission member would sit on every committee. So if there's 3 committees, they could divide accordingly. The chair would potentially sit on each one, but that is potential. I don't know. I'll ask Mr. Manuel, Mr. Lemieux, Mr. Miller if somebody has guesstimated the number of hours initially, and going forward, the meetings will be monthly, so you can sort of extrapolate what your expectation would be there. But in the beginning, is there an estimated expectation of time commitment? Mr. Miller, or Mr. Manuel, sorry?
Yeah, I believe it was approximately, in Edmonton's context, which is a fully functioning policing committee in a major metropolitan area, I believe is around 10 hours a month for a commission member. However, I will just circle back to the documentation I have on that, and if there's some differences there. The chair did have some additional hour responsibility to that, but I'll just circle back to the documentation I had that broke that down just to make sure that's accurate.
Great, thanks for that. We'll come back to that one. Councillor Bressie. Sorry, did you have anything else, Councillor Plott?
Yeah, I was also going to ask if we're concerned if we did move to 9, are we concerned about not filling the spots? Is there a reason? Was the 7 recommendation more just from looking at other analysis, or was it we just feel that 7 was what the best candidates we're going to have off the start to limit the pool?
Mr. Miller?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I think we just picked the number 7 as we thought it's a reasonable way to start the process. And just if I can make one additional comment, it's a minimum of a meeting per month. So we anticipate at the start there could be additional meetings, certainly. But I think our thoughts are also that the initial 7 members of the police commission are going to be people that are very interested in helping us develop this process. So I guess we're hopeful that they would accept the workload might be heavier at the start and maybe taper off once we get it established.
No, appreciate that. Thanks.
Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I've got concerns about the 7 size too, not so much from workload, although that is a concern, but also because I think it's really important that all members of the community can see themselves in this commission. And I am worried about having different backgrounds, different life spaces represented here with only 7 while also getting the skills we need. I think for me, maybe it's achievable with 7, maybe it's not. It depends on who applies. And so I'm hesitant to give a specific number here. I think it makes sense to go through the application process, go through the interviews of a short list, and then decide, can we accomplish what we need with 7, or do we need to expand it?
Sure. Mr. Miller, and I guess with that, could the wording be up to a certain number? Go ahead, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Clayton. I think the way the bylaw is worded right now, it's 5 to 12, so I think at any point council can decide to add or change it.
Go ahead, Councillor Bressie.
So I guess for me, I'd be fine approving this recommendation today in terms of, hey, 7's our target, but just my hope would be that if administration does 7 and goes, oh, we're not quite getting what we need there, that we get a recommendation to increase it if we need to.
Right. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I guess for me, starting at 7 and with the ability to move up to 9 or 12 if we need to, that's in the bylaw already. I'm not concerned about that. We have to remember we have a full-time executive director on this. So it's not just a commission that is doing it voluntarily on their own. You have somebody who's running that, the flagship, right? So I think 7 for now, and the executive director and the chair will be first to tell you if they need more. So I'm fine with it for now.
Councillor O'Toole.
Yeah, I remember when we went to Camrose, I talked to one of the counselors that was on there, and he said there's a lot of training that takes place when you first get appointed to the commission, and that first month or 2 is about 40 hours worth of work. So, and then there's the regular meetings that they have, which are once a month. So just giving some insight there, that's all.
Thanks for that. Councillor Berg, and then I'll jump in the queue.
Yeah, for me, I'm comfortable with 7 initially, but again, I like the flexibility of 9. When I look at anybody that's 9 or over, it's Lethbridge, Calgary, Edmonton, and Lethbridge again is approaching, 95,000 people. They're over 100. Okay, so it's the 3 larger municipalities that have that larger commission, and I assume part of that there's more work, but there's also greater population to draw from. So all of the rest on the list are at 7, and I think we fit comfortably in that framework. So I'm comfortable with 7.
Thanks, Councillor Berg. Yeah, I too am comfortable with 7. I think, as indicated by administration and noted by council, as the work is executed, if there is a need for more, that will be an opportunity. And also worth noting is 9 of us cover everything in the city. So in my opinion, 7 is great for this commission. Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, just a question. If 7 is the will of council, it's the will of council. But let's say we get a lot of really good applications that come in that represent the cross section. I know it says 5 to 12, but would we be limiting ourselves to only 7 on that first intake, or if we have really quality applicants, can we say put 10 on, for instance?
Well, I think that's sort of what Councillor Bressie addressed. If a cross section comes in and there's not a representation that is seen as a fair representation of our community, then administration will come back with a recommendation of different numbers.
Okay, but yeah, no, I guess all I'm saying is when we accept all the applications in, and let's say we get 15 and they're all really great, are we going to limit ourselves to
Well, it's
7
limited
or
to 12.
Yeah, so we can still hire more on that
Yep.
day. Yep, perfect. Thank you.
All right, seeing nothing further, I guess I suggest that we break these into 4 different motions. So I'd look for business arising from the first one. Councillor Bressie.
I would. Sorry, am I making a committee direct or committee recommend council direct?
Mr. Miller.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. We did consult with Mr. Freeman on this, and committee of the whole can actually deal with it today. It doesn't necessarily have to go to council. So you can make the motion.
I'm going to make a motion slightly different than this, if it's in order, and I'm going to move that committee direct administration to aim for 7 commission members. I'm trying to find wording that we're given direction of, hey, don't bring us exactly 7. 7's what we're target. So I guess direct administration to target 7 appointments to commission.
Mr. Miller.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I just wanted to also remind council that it'll be most likely 2 councillors appointed to the commission plus 2 provincial appointees. So really what we need is input on 3 from the council members. So we will have a pool, I'm sure, of maybe 10 or 12 or 15. So from there you could pick a minimum of 3 and maybe a max of up to 12 total. Well, what's the math there? 8.
Yep.
Yeah, so you do have options. So if there is some really good candidates in there, you can certainly go beyond the 3 and increase it up to the max of 12 total.
Okay.
So you're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
As is?
Yep.
I'm just waiting it to come up in the queue, and then we'll discussion or debate on the motion. Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. So I'm just confused. So if we approve this, it's saying we appoint 7. So I'm here. We have
Actually don't appoint 7.
but it's saying council will appoint 7 members to this. So
Can you just pull the motion
So
up?
what I'm concerned about is does it give us a latitude to go to 9 or 11 in that motion or not?
Right.
Like the way I read it, it doesn't really give us a latitude to do that. So I'm wondering if we should say a council appoint 9 to 12 council members, just so we leave that open range there for administration as well.
Well, I guess my concern with putting it 9 to 12, what if we're happy with the commission?
Or sorry, 7 to 12. Sorry, 7 to 12, yeah. 9 is where I'd like to be,
Can
but
you
7.
sorry, I'll just ask Legislative Services Manager to put the motion up as currently worded.
So it can go to screen it.
There we go.
There we go.
Committee Direct Administration to target 7 appointments for this commission. Yeah. But it's not 7, right?
I mean, it would be 7 total appointments still is how I'd read this. Sure, we know that.
Sure, 2 already done.
Yeah.
And I mean, do you know what I mean? Because the minister is appointing 2. I'll just ask, are we comfortable with this as is? Knowing that it's really, could be 3 community members, could be 5, could be,
Yeah, I mean, because you're targeting, you're not saying
Okay.
it's a specific number.
all right. Okay, anyone else comments or questions, debate on the motion? Councillor Thiessen.
Up to.
Yeah, it might be, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest more of a range, just because I think we should be explicitly clear to the public, especially in our motions. Like, if we say we're going to appoint 7 and somebody's reading that to the line or to target to 7, and then we only do 3 that day, because we have 2 appointed and 2 council or staff, whatever like addition of that is, I think there might be an expectation on the day that we do the appointments that we're going to see public members get appointed rather than appointed by government.
So the ranges in the report is what? Again, remind me again. 7 to 12. So why don't you do a friendly, if we could do a friendly amendment to, and it's not committee appoint, it's council appoint. So committee recommend 7 to 12 commission members. Okay? Okay, good. We'll just take a minute for that. And it'll be so are you saying the, not HR committee, what are we calling the committee that's going to recommend the 7 to 12? So let's call it the recruitment committee, recommend 7 to 12 committee members to council. Okay, and once that's up, we'll call the question. Or once that's typed in, sorry.
Councillor O'Connor in favor?
And sorry, just one thing. This should be council recommend. Or does it matter? It says committee, but it could be council committee of the whole, whatever we can clean that up later, but the understanding that this is a council decision so that it doesn't still need to go to council. All right. All right, we are good on that. When it's up there, I'll call a question. Please vote.
Councillor O'Connor in favor?
Councillor O'Connor's in favor. You guys, everyone else is good. Who are we missing? Councillor Bosch.
Still blinking. In favor.
And that carries unanimously. So moving on, the second item in the report is addressing commission requiring the commission members to be City of Grande Prairie residencies. The recommendation in the report that it be a consideration but not a requirement. I'll open this up for questions for administration. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. Personally, I don't know if this is going to require a lot of discussion or debate, and I'm prepared to make a motion if there are no questions.
Okay, so I'll just go through those in the queue. Councillor Plott, do you have a question for administration on this? Go ahead, and I'll come back to you, Councillor Thiessen.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I'm just curious, if it were built out at, say, 9, where we had 2 city members, 2 minister members, and then we'd have 5, I guess, somewhat public. There's part of me that would be a little bit worried that 4 of them could be non-local in our first year. And so I'm wondering if there should be some sort of cap or some sort of thought around how many can be non-local, especially if we just made a motion saying, from this to here.
Yeah.
I don't mind having maybe 2 or 3 non-local members, but I'm wondering if we should have a cap on how many are non-local. That's my concern with this, that we've seen that with Aquaterra. It started out as a lot of non-members, and now we're having a hard time getting public members. And I think if we start down the path where we're getting a lot of external members, it might get harder to get public members as well. So not sure what number I want to make an amendment yet, but that's something that's concerning to me, and I'll give it some thought here.
Fair comments. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, as an extension of that, my question is, I think we should, or maybe not even a question, a statement, it should at least be a majority of local. Now, again, I could easily see 1 or 2 coming from the county, but I don't know what the province's intentions of their 2 are. I would assume that they'll all be residents of Alberta, but I'm hoping that when the province assigns 2 people, that they're people with experience. So I don't necessarily think that they'll be from the area, but with that, at the very least, we have to have a majority of residents in my mind.
Yeah, and just to clarify that for consideration, early signs indicate that the 2 members appointed by Minister Ellis will be city members, city residents. So therefore, 4 of them, 4 if we were at 7 would be. But yeah, happy to have the discussion on what that equation looks like. Councillor O'Connor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. I was speaking to a resident this morning, and they were upset that we're thinking including the area, and they were very defensive about keeping it to the borders of the city. So I would be echo that same sentiment, that if we don't have good candidates come from here, then I think we could open it up to external. But I think it's important that we have a majority as city residents.
And just to be clear, the way it's worded, it's a consideration but not a requirement. So council will have the opportunity to weigh in on that. Councillor O'Toole.
Yeah, I feel that the way it is right now, where it says may be considered, it would be fair enough. I don't think that we need to mandate, 95% of the board from Grande Prairie. If there's somebody such as, just throwing this name out, somebody that owns a business in town that pays a lot of money in taxes, that is a good, smart individual and intelligent, that they live in Wedgwood, why wouldn't they want to be able to apply? That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Councillor Thiessen. And if you're ready to do business arising, you had a comment?
Well, if the queue's empty, I can.
No, I just have one more. So can I come back to you? Or did you have
No, I was just going to make a comment.
Perfect. I'll go to Councillor Blackmore first.
I'm just curious if maybe we want to say first consideration will be given to residents, because I feel that the residents are the ones paying for the police, that they should have more weight given to them. However, someone who pays $70,000 in taxes a year probably has as much right to have a comment as anyone else. So it's just a thought. I don't really care one way or the other.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in the queue before to go to Councillor Thiessen for a motion to debate. I think the way that it's worded, it gives council the liberty to choose the members, and that it's a consideration and not a requirement puts us in a good position. But Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Clayton. I was going to say earlier that Councillor O'Toole, he said, that's all I have to say about that. Well, he took all the words out of my mouth, because there's plenty of community builders that have created a life here in Grande Prairie and have retired out into the county, and they still are very much involved in this community. And to the same points that you made earlier, I guess that's what I was going to use on a close, I guess, that we're in charge of the recruitment process. So if we see that it's starting to lean a little more to county residents rather than qualified city residents, then we can make those changes as it is. So with saying all that, I'll make the motion that Council Committee of the Whole, sorry, one sec, I'm trying to reword this. Council Committee of the Whole approve commission members to sit on the commission with city residents being a consideration but not a requirement.
Perfect. That motion is in order. Discussion or debate on that motion. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you. I guess I'd like to just make a note that we're talking primarily the county, but it could be a resident from the city of Calgary who is very familiar with a municipal police force that might give us a bit of clarity on how things have run for them over time too. So I don't think limiting our options is wise. I think bringing in people with a different outlook is a positive. Other than I wouldn't go majority. I would go minority for sure.
All right. Seeing no further discussion or debate on that motion, I'll call the question.
Councillor O'Connor in favor.
Councillor Thiessen in favor. Oh, there it is.
That carries unanimously. Moving on to the third recommendation in our package regarding commissioners receiving remuneration. I'll open it up for questions for administration, and then we'll go to business arising. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. So I do think that these people should be compensated for their time. I'm just curious. So the question is, for other committees that do pay remuneration, does anyone have the information on what kind of scale that might be?
Sure, I can tell you that the information is if you scroll down there.
Yes, I'm actually asking more about city.
Oh, other city
so
commissioner
be it and
across the province.
oh no, actually city committees, be it Airport,
yeah.
Aquaterra, different things like that.
So, I can tell you that Aquaterra has, as an independent board, approved their honorarium. Other city commissions and/or committees don't have honorarium or remuneration.
Okay.
Mr. Miller, anything to add to that?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I don't have anything to add unless City Clerk may have.
Ms. Hanson?
Through the mayor, there are some committees that have remuneration, such as the Assessment Review Board, the Subdivision Development Appeal Board, the Complaint Adjudication Committee. So those would be ones that do have a remuneration, and they vary depending on, and some of those are because of their provincially mandated boards.
Yeah, and that's particular, as well as the training expectation, right? So it's a little bit different than our other ones, but yeah. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I'm good with some remuneration, particularly in the beginning. It's going to be a lot of work putting this together, and you want people to be rewarded with, at least something for their efforts. My question is, however, travel to and from conferences and seminars, that is not included. And I'm wondering why, if that's on behalf of the city.
Mr. Manuel.
I can cover that off. So the compensation related to the out-of-pocket expenses, so the hotels, mileage, flights, those things are covered. It's saying that the time spent traveling between those, because a lot of them are professional development activities at the members' discretion versus the committee's direction that you must attend those sorts of things. So we were just being consistent with what exists in the other committees such as Edmonton and Calgary.
Okay. Well, that sounds different than how it's written here, but as long as they're compensated for their rooms and their travel.
Yeah, there's two intents. So there's the honorarium as it pertains to the committee business, and then there's a separate policy which isn't attached that covers things like the travel expense.
Okay, thank you. This is a significant committee for people. Our highest budget line and our most, talked about as of late, and we need to really put total effort whether in getting the right people on this committee. So, yeah, I'm for the remuneration.
Thanks for your comments. Councillor Bressie.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, I think it is important to provide compensation for this. Also, I think that it's significant time commitment, and there are some people who, depending on where their life circumstances are, this could lead to them losing income elsewhere if they can't pick up hours or pick up work elsewhere. And so I think it's good to compensate people for this so that income's not a barrier for people joining. Two comments I've got on it is, I know reading this that the two councillors that could potentially be appointed to this won't get extra money for being on the commission. That's in our bylaw, but I wonder if we should add a line right at the top under that first paragraph. Elected officials are compensated for council appointments under council remuneration, or just some sort of wording there to make it really clear if somebody's reading just this, that the elected officials aren't getting more money for being on this commission.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and this is a draft. Mr. Miller, can that be updated prior?
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Yes, we can certainly do that.
Okay.
Great. Then the one other thing that we might consider putting in is, I know that the chair of this commission is going to have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of having to spend 10 minutes here, take in a media request, or having to check in with the executive director, do email. It might be worth doing something like a $200 a month honoraria for the chair on top of attending meetings. Just deal with those little things that the chair might have to deal with.
Councillor Blackmore.
I think that that's actually covered, because anything they do that's less than 4 hours, they get $200. So.
Councillor Bressie, do you have a comment regarding that?
Yeah, just for me, I don't necessarily want to pay the chair $150 if they do a 10-minute media interview. So I know that I've been on some boards where the chairs just expected to do those little duties, and they're the 10-15 minutes that they do here, the 10-15 minutes that they do there, that really adds up over a month is kind of covered by that monthly thing instead of paying $150 every time they spend 10 minutes on it.
Councillor Blackmore?
Yeah, first of all, I think we really do need to pay an honoraria. I would absolutely not consider not paying it. And I think that the amount that is laid out in the draft honoraria is excellent. We can certainly amend it to exclude council members from participating in honorarias. And I suspect that because we're going to pick a terrific commission with a great chair, they're not going to nickel and dime us anyway. But if they were to, I think the other commission members would probably have something to say about that. I don't feel that it's a risk.
Councillor Thiessen?
Yeah, I share Councillor Blackmore's sentiments here. When I look at the table chart under number 4, where they will receive the following honoraria, the chair automatically is already for a full day, making $100 more, $50 more for a half day. Plus, they're likely going to be sitting on all the subcommittees if it's like any other board, and so that's $200 to $400 for every subcommittee. And if we establish 3 or 4, then it could pretty much be a full-time job for somebody, at least decent in pace. So I can't support any increases.
Councillor O'Connor?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Clayton. My concern, it might not be clear if councillors don't get extra remuneration, they're paid by regular. I'm assuming, and clarify for me, that if they do go to a convention, they will get all their expenses paid for. It's not spelled out, but when you put excluding compensation to councillors, I think it needs to be clear.
Currently in our policy, we have identified a police convention that appoints councillors to go, and that's covered in there.
Okay. Just want to make sure expenses are covered is what I'm not hearing.
Yeah, this is for, yeah. This is our honorarium. Council already has an existing policy 100 that covers other expenses. Councillor O'Toole.
Yep. There we go. According to chart on number 4 there, I appreciate that chart, and I'm willing to let that one stand.
You ready to make a motion, Councillor O'Toole?
I'll make a motion. I move that commissioners will receive the following honorarium as in chart under 4, daily commitment time, commissioner, chair, commission chair, and subcommittee chair.
Sure, and are you comfortable if we just use the recommended motion in our package?
Absolutely.
That commissioners should receive remuneration in accordance with the draft Grande Prairie Police Commission honoraria policy?
Yeah, I'll let that one slide. Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. Team effort here. Comments or questions, debate on the motion? Councillor Plott.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I'm just wondering if we should say as amended or somewhere in there just to capture
Perfect, sure.
Councillor Bressy's other comments somewhere, so we don't have to
Take that as a friendly amendment, Councillor O'Toole, that the draft policy would be as amended. Seeing no one else in the queue, I'll call the question.
Councillor O'Connor, in favor.
And that carries unanimously. Moving on to the 4th item as in our package, the council's preference that the commissioner recruitment and selection process. There is a recommendation that recruitment shall be conducted in accordance with the draft Grande Prairie Police Commission recruitment and selection policy, and that the draft Grande Prairie Police Commission competency framework as in your package. Comments or questions for administration? And if none, then I would look for business arising. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Clayton. Just for a point of clarity, during the presentations for Mr. Manuel, did we specifically say one way or the other how we would recruit? Did we say that we were going third party? Because I recall third party on some elements, but just not which elements.
Mr. Manuel and then Mr. Miller.
So no, we didn't explicitly state that. We had mentioned that more in regard to the recruitment of the chief of police as opposed to the commission itself. We did identify that that is a possibility, and even the recruitment policy that's put forward to you right now still keeps that as an option if council so directs. It just lays the matrix. These are the skills and qualities, attributes we're looking for in commission members. And it was really built in consistency with that of Calgary and Edmonton and those other municipalities.
Great. Thanks for refreshing my memory.
Councillor Blackmore.
I would really not be in favor of using an executive search firm for a commission for a couple of reasons. One is because it will delay the choosing of the commission, and further, I think that between council and administration, we have a really good grasp of who lives here and who would be excellent on the commission. So I don't feel we need to delay it by having a search firm do the same thing that we would do anyway.
All right, so Councillor Blackmore, based on that, would you be prepared to deal with the business arising?
Certainly. I would move that Council Committee of the Whole approve that recruitment is conducted in accordance with the draft Grande Prairie Police Commission recruitment and selection policy and draft Grande Prairie Police Commission competency framework.
Perfect. Discussion or debate on that motion? Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question.
Councillor O'Connor in favor.
And that carries unanimously. Councillor Blackmore, I see you're in the queue. Did you have other business arising?
I just wanted to, before we move on from the Police Commission business, I'm wondering if we have or will have shortly some type of package that any one of us could forward to someone that we feel may have some good strengths to offer the commission.
Potential candidates, you mean? For
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Yes, we are anticipating and having something put together very quickly. And I see Mr. Manuel nodding his head as well. So
Hey,
we have talked about doing it very quickly for council, well, for the applicants to
So
look
maybe you
at.
can just, once that's ready, forward the link or whatever is appropriate.
Sure.
that would be great. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Bressie.
Sorry, for concluded business, I'm just confused by the last motion. We've got this recruitment process we approved, but when it comes to the team that's going to do candidate review, it's got options in there, and I don't know which option we're going to move forward with absent of direction.
So those are options. You're hoping to solidify that?
Well, it needs to be solidified eventually, so
Yeah.
when are we going to solidify that if not today?
There's a better question. Mr. Miller.
Thanks, Mayor Clayton. I'm just trying to find where you were referring to,
Right here.
Councillor.
Section 2.
Section 2A of the Police Commission recruitment process.
Mr. Manuel.
Mr. Manuel's prepared there.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So to your point, the selection process does identify some options for council in determining the recruitment team that would review the applicants, shortlist, conduct interviews if desired, and make recommendations to council. That is a remaining question. Certainly, this would be a good opportunity to receive direction if council's prepared. Otherwise, administration can certainly bring it back.
I'm prepared to make a motion if you'd like something on the table to discuss, Mayor Clayton.
Go for it. Councillor Bressie.
I would move that committee direct administration to use a subcommittee of council and administration and interviews in the recruitment process. And just speak this, when I say subcommittee of council and administration, I don't mean all 9 of us on that. I mean, Mayor Clayton appoint 1 or 2 councillors to be part of a process with a few administrative folks. But I think it'd be good to have a political and an administrative lens on that.
That's appropriate, and it's flexible enough that it should serve us well. Councillor Blackmore, that motion is in order. So council discussion or debate. Councillor Blackmore.
No, I don't have anything to add. That was what where I was going.
Perfect. I'll go really slowly in case there's any other discussion or debate on that motion. Seeing no one in the queue, I'll call the question. Thanks for that catch, Councillor Bressie. And Councillor O'Connor, how do you vote?
I'm voting in favor.
Thanks, Councillor O'Connor. And that carries unanimously. Any other business arising from that? Seeing none, moving on to correspondence in your package. You will see that there is a letter from Minister Ellis and regarding our establishment of a municipal police service. This letter identifies that the law enforcement needs and priorities of each community are unique, and that Alberta's law enforcement system provides communities with as much flexibility as practical, while also ensuring that Albertans have equitable access to police services. In the letter, it also identifies and emphasizes that creating a new municipal police service and police commission is part of a multi-stage process in our policing transition. And Minister Ellis also encourages us to work closely with department officials in public safety and emergency services, who will ensure that our new municipal police service and police commission are developed in accordance with Alberta Provincial's policing standards and meet the requirements set out in the Police Act. It also identifies that although the creation of the new municipal police service is a notable milestone in our transition timeline, further approvals from the Director of Law Enforcement will be required to the municipal police service assuming policing responsibilities as outlined in the Provincial Police Standards and the Police Act. The RCMP will continue to be the police of jurisdiction for the city of Grande Prairie until further police transition agreements and plans are in place, and also identifies who our point of contact for this transition is going forward. So I'm looking for this letter to be received, and I'll take comments or questions. Yep. Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, I would like to move that we receive this letter for information.
Thank you for that. Any questions, discussion, or debate on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question.
Councillor O'Connor in favor. Oh, thank you.
That carries unanimously. For those who may be watching, we now have an in-camera item on our agenda. We won't be coming out of camera. So I'll just let you know if you're watching, we're going to go in camera. We won't be coming back out of camera following that in-camera discussion. So I thank you for joining us today, and we will see you again soon.
I would like to make a motion to go into camera, please.
Thank you for that, Councillor O'Connor. All those in favor?
Councillor O'Connor in favor.
And that carries unanimously. We'll now move in camera. Thank you. Give us a few minutes.